When a volcano that hasn't erupted in 12,000 years suddenly sets itself ablaze and sets fire, the entire world should pause. If you're unaware, there's a volcano that erupted in Ethiopia, and it is said that in modern history it has never erupted. But something came to my mind that totally shocked me about this entire event, and so I went down a biblical rabbit hole. This volcano, if we believe in the way that the Bible tells its own history, is older than some Bible history itself. But that shouldn't make sense, right? Listen to the end of this video, because this theory is going to blow your mind, and it's completely based in the Bible. See, what I learned in my studies down this rabbit hole the last few days is that 12,000 years ago wasn't a random number on a geological chart. It was the end of an era, a moment where the entire earth collapsed, a moment mirrored in scripture, preserved in African memory, and buried under the sands of time. That's why I love living on this continent so much. There's just so much history here, and you get these revelations that are just out of this world, or totally in this world and totally reality. But the way that we read the Bible coming from the Western world is a little bit flawed, because we need the Hebraic understanding. And when I went to Genesis 1 and read it in Hebrew, I came out with something totally different than how the English Western version teaches Genesis 1. This is your reminder that Earth has lived through multiple cycles of creation, destruction, and renewal. A reminder that the Bible story begins after a catastrophe, not before one, and a reminder that Africa carries the oldest scars and the oldest wisdom about the world that was before Adam and Eve, or Adam and Chua, existed. There's a fact that I had to face: the pre-Adamic world in scripture, because Genesis 1 is not the beginning of the universe. Hebrew, the language itself, reveals it's the beginning of restoration for the earth. In the beginning, Bereshit, a beginning of something, not the beginning of everything. That's what it means in Hebrew. The earth became tohu vabohu, ruined and empty. In the beginning, the earth became, and not the beginning of everything, but the beginning of something, a new restoration. The earth became ruined and empty. Darkness was upon the face of the deep, Tehoam. Floodwaters buried the old world. These are not descriptions of a brand new, fresh creation. They sound like judgment, collapse, a world submerged, divine withdrawal, a planet waiting to rebuild. And Jeremiah confirms this as well. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 4, he says, I saw the earth, and behold, it was tohu vabohu. All the cities were broken down. Jeremiah chapter 4, verses 23 through 26. I'll say it again. I saw the earth, and behold, it was tohu vabohu. All the cities were broken down. It was in ruin and destruction. Cities before Adam that were destroyed. The Bible hints at an older world, a forgotten world that we quite frankly don't remember, and that we quite frankly weren't a part of, because the human race through Adam and Eve were the first humans, the first ones to be created in his likeness. We know that before us was them, the angels, the messengers, but we don't really know what they were doing. And the scriptures say we prophesy in part. The part that he gives us belongs to us, but the part that belongs to Elohim is secret and will remain that way. But let's talk about this weird coincidence, because in history we can see the Younger Dryads, Earth's greatest collapse, which was supposedly about 12,900 years ago to 11,600 years ago. Yes, we're gonna go there. By the way, you should hit the like button, share this with as many people as you can. This was not my first time coming across this theory. When I first heard it, it was a little bit, for me, too much like otherworldly. But recently, with the rise of AI, with these technologies, with these world religions where we see giants across the earth, where we see technologies that happen prior to current humanity, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to take the Hebrew Bible for what it says, not with the Western mindset, but with the ancient Hebrew concept. Because ancient Hebrew, if you're unaware, is a concrete language. Words aren't really open for very much abstract interpretation if you read them in the Hebrew. So when it says tohu vabohu, means that it was in ruin and destruction. There's really no space for any other interpretation. When it says that in the beginning wasn't necessarily a word that means the beginning of everything, but the start of a restoration, there's no room for an abstract meaning. It just is what it is. That's what's so beautiful about the Hebrew Bible. And reading it in Hebrew, you just get the words for what they are. You just get the context for what it is. The same as Yeshua, our Messiah, he spoke in a level of authority and a level of just, it is what it is. Like, this is it. Take it or leave it. When he's speaking to the Pharisees, who he calls vipers, who are religious leaders, he very much has this mindset of, well, I'm the son of Yah. That's who I said I am. You can take it or leave it. Yes, all authority has been given to the son of Yah. They're like, who do you think you are? Who do you say you are? And he just lets them know, I've already said who I am. You can take it or leave it. It doesn't really matter. That's how the Bible is. That's the proper way to look at the Hebrew scriptures. But let's continue, because I found out about the Younger Dryas a few days ago. And I thought, the Younger Dryas, this is an event actually that happened 12,000 to 11,000 years ago. And it was a cataclysm, a global disaster, so violent it ended the entire age. First, we had global mega floods that happened all over the world. If you were to take a class in college like world religions like I did, you see all across every continent, people have a flood story. People have stories of giants in ancient India and ancient Africa and ancient China and North America and Egypt. People have the same exact stories, but they just disseminate them differently based on their culture and their beliefs. And so we have these huge floods again across the Sahara, the Levant, the Nile Basin, the Arabian Peninsula, and North America. Rivers that doubled in size, seas that swallowed entire coastlines, low-lying civilizations that vanished. And this isn't too far out there, because we know from Adam and Eve to Noah, that creation was destroyed, because giants were roaming the face of the earth, and the Most High was not too happy. Yahuwah, he looked at the earth and he was like, this is utter destruction. I'm going to actually take out everybody, and I'm going to bring a flood. Noah, you and your family are going to be the main ones that survive, because everything prior to you guys is just an abomination. Okay, so he takes everything out and saves a remnant. He saves Noah and his family, 7 clean animals, 2 unclean animals, and that's how the story went, and that's how we're here today. Now, I looked into the global dryas, or I should say the dryads, which is the cataclysm catastrophe. And from a scientific standpoint, they believe that it happened because of a solar flare. And I thought that was really interesting, because Yah made a promise with the rainbow, and he said, I will never flood the earth again. But when he judges the world the second time or third time or fourth time, whatever he's judging, whatever cycle it's in, it's going to be by fire. And a solar flare actually causes the earth to heat up so much and causes a type of fire-like event that suddenly destroys the entire climate of the earth. So I thought that was really interesting. And again, we put this 12,000 years, this volcano that went off in Ethiopia is showing us that there is something awakening from that era. And I thought to myself, I was like, wait, if Adam and Eve were made about 6,000 years ago, which they were, according to the biblical narrative, is about 6,000 years ago, then they weren't on earth when that volcano erupted. Abraham wasn't on earth when that volcano erupted. Yahusha wasn't on earth when that volcano erupted. We're the first humans to be on earth now that this volcano has erupted. And by the way, the eruption was so big that it actually caused smoke clouds to go all the way to India. So it seems like something is awakening in the earth. And I believe that we have to be prepared, because Yah says that he does not leave his servants, the prophets, unaware and unprepared of what's about to happen. We are literally the main favorite creation of Yah, to the point where he gave his son, came in the body of Yahusha, and was willing to succumb to a mortal human life to die for us, just for us to be in right standing with him. And so I just don't believe that he would just have us in the dark about these things. In fact, He is allowing us to understand and see this so that we know how to pray, we know how to discern, we know how to move, and we know that this next age coming is probably going to be like nothing we ourselves have ever experienced before. Although there's no new thing under the sun, the earth has gone through these cycles, okay? Remember, at a point, Africa's green belt, which would have been the Sahara back then, it was a rainforest way back then, but it shrank. Animals migrated and died. They became a desert over there. Humans scattered, and the whole earth began to shift. This was not evolution. This was a rupture. And the extinction of ancient life, because Yah was not very pleased with that ancient life. During this window, there were mammoths on the earth, giant buffalo, saber-toothed cats, ground sloths, massive African megafauna that all disappeared. Entire ecosystems died. Human civilizations in these ecosystems also collapsed with them. Think about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Older than Stonehenge, Nabata Playa in Sudan, and the other pyramids and Sphinx erosions in Egypt, which were dated to 12,000 years. These sites suggest organized religion, obviously occult activity, astronomical alignment, coordinated architecture, advanced knowledge, and then suddenly silence. Yah said it was enough. And although we can still see remnants of these places today, they just serve as like, yeah, those things used to exist. But maybe it was a very dark time in Earth's history, during Earth's different phases and cycles, where the earth was groaning because there was so much catastrophe and occult magic happening that the earth, quite frankly, couldn't take it anymore. And Yah himself clearly couldn't take it anymore, because in Deuteronomy, Yahuwah says, I suffer not a witch to live. He does not play. But this is just like Jeremiah's vision in chapter 4 of Jeremiah. And Ethiopia's volcano sits right smack dab in the middle of this timeline. I think that's so crazy. The volcano is called Helil Gubi. If I'm saying that properly, if you're Ethiopian, you can come correct me. Helil Gubi. 12,000 years ago, right at the end of the Younger Dryas, the exact moment ancient civilizations disappeared, the exact moment Genesis 1:2 describes a ruined earth. A ruined, dark earth where Yah is looking over the face of the deep. You can't look over the face of the deep unless it already existed. He's looking over the face of this ruined earth, returning to his creation and saying, let there be light. But not just, I'm going to turn a light bulb on. To the Hebrew mind and to the Hebrew language, let there be light was let there now be order out of chaos. Let there be law and instruction in a place that I had turned away from, in a place that I was not near to, in a place that I had judged. That's what the Most High was saying to the earth. Let there be order. Let there be a divine restoration. Let's bring some order to this chaos, because this world was going through some stuff that we just don't know about. But the earth remembers, and the earth is recycling this information, and it's just wild. Based on scripture, geological data, I should say, and the world's oldest African traditions, the pre-Adamic world likely included cities, civilizations, spiritual beings, angelic rebellions, ancient knowledge systems, global catastrophe, and complete erasure. The Bible doesn't detail this world because Genesis is the story of Adamic humanity. You gotta stay on topic, right, when you have a story. Genesis through Revelations, we're talking about humanity, the Adamic creation, Adams. The first Adam literally being Adam, and the second Adam being Yahusha. And the finality of it all in Revelations when Yahusha returns. And of course, Titus 3:9 warns us not to get stuck in genealogies because they are not complete. Because at the end of the day, again, I told you we are Yah's favorite creation. There's no other creation that he literally came and died for. The pre-Adamic world was not a part of Israel's covenant line, obviously. The pre-Adamic world was not promised salvation or promised that it would not go to the lake of fire. It was not promised any of those things. And so if you are one that's finding yourself having dreams of giants and you're seeing these ancient world things, Yah is trying to ready you in the spirit so that when these things return to earth, you're going to be able to steward your family, steward the people around you, rebuke them, and understand what's happening. There is nothing that Yahuwah will not show us about what's to come. In fact, there's a verse in Jeremiah that says, ask of me and I will show you things that have never been seen before. And let's face it, we all know on this channel, we are living in a global unraveling. The West is collapsing, the East is rising, but with this rise is also some ancient things that are happening because listen, Western governments are collapsing, there's extreme weather. I've seen like earthquakes in Alaska and Russia and this super typhoon in the Philippines, and then just in the last week, this is all within the last week, also the mega volcano that quaked in Ethiopia and had the fume clouds going all the way to India, financial instability, mass exodus, mass migrations out of the Western world into the global South, geopolitical realignments, and spiritual hunger are arising. This mirrors the end of the previous cycle. The younger dryas collapse, and when the earth shifts into these patterns, it signals a reset, a transition, and a new age emerging. Africa, which is the starting point of both Genesis and geology, becomes the compass once again. Diaspora is returning to the continent. Ancient African nations are rewriting old world alliances with places like China, India. Ethiopia is at the literal center of prophetic attention, and ancient land masses are awakening. The earth is repeating a pattern here, and the diaspora, we're waking up with it. Those of us with the eyes to see, the faith and the strength to understand what the Spirit is saying to the assemblies. And that Spirit is none other than the Spirit of Yahuwah. Ethiopia's volcano erupting after 12,000 years is not just a scientific headline. It's a prophetic signal. It ties together the destruction before Genesis, the Younger Dryas Cataclysm, lost African civilizations, the pre-Adamic world, the diaspora's return to their ancient history, and the beginning of a new global era. The Bible is not silent about the world before Adam. I'm telling you, go to the Hebrew. Get a Hebrew lexicon, just translate it. We have computers, like you can literally translate it and read it in real time and understand what the Hebrew words mean. The Bible's not silent, and the earth is not silent either. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next video.